Good Friday afternoon, 98Q Nation. You are with us once again with the local twist. I am Dish.
I am Tam.
And we are here, something very special. We're kicking it off this week. Thank you very much to our sponsor, Phillips Veterinary Clinic, for sponsoring the Catkins Rescue of the Week. Laura's here with Catkins, and we have a beautiful puppy. First, why don't you tell us a little bit about Catkins?
Okay, Catkins is an all-volunteer run, no-kill organization. Our focus is to help the homeless pets of Trace County. It's entirely funded by donations, so no taxpayer money goes into it. It's all about people who are interested in animals, want to help the animals. They contribute, they help us out. We're now adopting out about 300 animals a year.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yes, and you know, we do a lot of work with spay-neuter clinics and training dogs that come in. You name it, we try and get involved in it to what our volunteers can do. So that's basically what we're about. That's
awesome. Like I said, we are every week from now until we run out of animals, which is hopefully our goal. We are going to be bringing you a pet of the week that we think is obviously deserving.
And one that should go home with me.
Yeah, Bentley here is absolutely beautiful. Bentley,
come here. Bentley, come here.
We want to show you this dog. It's absolutely beautiful. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Bentley?
Okay. Bentley is a Heinz 57 mixed kind of dog. He is probably boxer in there, probably some pointer in there, maybe one of the bully breeds. He is about 4 years old. He's very social, very outgoing.
He's going to go on the air.
He's going to go on the air. There you go.
Come here.
There you go.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes, this is Bentley.
This is Bentley's butt. I wonder if we can get him turned around just a little bit.
I don't know. He doesn't
show
like
this
much.
pretty face.
Yes, he is absolutely beautiful.
Yep, and he's so smart. I mean, he's so affectionate, so social, outgoing, and just so smart. He knows his commands. He's potty trained. He loves other dogs. Yeah, you are just great. Any dog that he meets, he immediately has great body language. He plays wonderfully. Same thing with people. He loves, I mean, you guys saw when he came in here. He greets everybody.
His cheek
tail's
is wet.
Yeah, exactly. He's kissing people. He's getting handshakes. He's about to become a DJ.
Yeah.
He's just all around awesome.
Let's see if we can get him to sit.
Can you sit, Ben? Can you sit up here? You can give a good shake. You want to go down?
Now, if someone wanted to meet him and possibly adopt him, how would they contact you?
The easiest way is to go to our website, which is www.catkinsrescue.org, and you can find online adoption applications there. Fill one out. We are still working on the website, so when you click submit, you are going to get a blank screen. Someday we'll get an actual confirmation up there, but the applications come to us. The reason we ask for applications prior to setting up the meet and greets is sometimes people share like, hey, we have 5 small children, and Bentley might be a little bit much as far as energy for 5 small children, but we might have a great other option for them. Then, you know, after we go, okay, hey, yeah, this could be a good match for Bentley.
Let's put that down.
And he's pissed.
And he's happy to see you.
Apparently that means you can get down.
Okay, so once again, if you want to contact Laura about Bentley, if you saw him and you're interested in him, give her a call on
the Catkins line.
The Catkins line, 715-681-0022.
Right? Yes. We were stalking you. So
yeah, we were stalking your regular phone, cell phone, Facebook. We were stalking Laura for like a week and a half now. But we're so excited to get this up and running and to get this rolling.
Thank you so much.
And like you said, you can go to the website, catkinsrescue.org. Yep,
and then as soon as we get the app, we can set up a meet and greet for Bentley and potential family and send him home with all of his veterinary paperwork.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for bringing him in. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us.
Really appreciate it. Yes. We'll see you next week.
Yes, awesome.
So,
all right, Bentley, can you send Andrea in here? Come here. And you can just leave him in my office.
Okay, not a problem. You don't have 5 small children, do you?
No.
She's got 1 big child.
Oh, do you guys want a photo?
Yeah, we'll grab that. Yep. In a little bit.
Okay.
Next, we want to welcome in Andrea Jean because this month is anti-bullying month. We are big anti-bully supporters.
Hold this right over here.
And as we rearranged, this is the first week we're trying this, so it's all exciting and new.
Sure, you can
sit
here.
right
You
in the
can
middle.
sit wherever you want.
Right
You want to be in the middle? No one has ever said, "Can I please sit next to Paul?"
Nobody's ever said
I'd like
that.
to sit
I'm so
next to
excited.
Paul.
Yeah. I have very low self-confidence.
Whatever. Sometimes
right.
we have to insult him before we walk in there just so there's room for all of us.
Yes, absolutely. Once again, Andrew Jean here from the Time Out Family Abuse Shelter. October is Anti-Bully Month, and why don't you tell us a little bit about what you have going on?
Well, we have tons of presentations in the schools right now. We go into middle school and high school and also elementary school. What we call bullying in elementary school turns into harassment and sexual harassment into the middle and high school level, and then employment as well. However, cyberbullying and all that kind of bullying still goes on. And brought a bunch of notes, and then I'm thinking, I'm just going to talk about what I know.
Great.
Absolutely. That's the best way to go. We wing everything. We never plan.
Andrea and I talked a little bit last week, and I had asked her some questions. In fact, when we discussed doing this show, I had talked just briefly with her about someone that was being bullied, about children that are being bullied, how they go to their school, their parent, and she just was this fountain of knowledge.
Well, thank you. A lot of times when we just went to the middle school, there it was, again, very obvious how different levels of kids we're dealing with as far as understanding what we're talking about. So you really have to switch your thinking when you talk to a 4th grader versus an 8th grader versus then a high schooler when it comes to bullying and harassment and sexual harassment. Although starting in middle school, the harassment / bullying starts to become already sexual in nature, but they might not get that yet. But things, and when we really talk about things like a pantsing, well, that's an assault.
It's terrible.
You are forcefully removing someone's clothing. Kids don't think about that.
It's funny in movies. It's not funny at all.
It's not funny at all.
It's not funny, period. And I mean, to your point, obviously I was a young boy at one point in time, not that long ago, but pantsing was
long ago.
It was funny to the person
doing it.
But not to exactly. You never thought of that. You never thought of it as being an assault on that person, but realistically, that's exactly what it is.
It is, and you're removing somebody's clothing forcefully. And, when we talk to the kids in the schools, we explain to them that it's not how the person intends it, it's how the other person perceives it.
Exactly.
So you might think it's funny, but if I don't perceive it that way, and it starts with the sexual jokes. People laugh all the time. Jokes about blondes, jokes about redheads. When we touch on these issues, you can see, but again, yes, there's a level of jokes, but when it comes to bullying, I don't know. And kids internalize everything.
But when you think a good place for a lot of people to start is how would you feel if someone said this to you about you? Exactly. And a lot of times that's even changed my thinking, because there's been times I think, oh, well, that's funny or that's cute. And I'm Hispanic, and within our Hispanic realm, we'll tease each other.
Sure.
But it also gives other people leeway to make jokes that aren't funny.
Right, exactly. And I tell the kids all the time, whether you're 15 or you're 25 like I am, it's not easy.
They're both in denial.
No, we're both 25.
Oh, yeah, I'm like
25. But anyway, I talk to them about, no matter how old you are, it's not easy to stand up for yourself. And it's always interesting when I go into lower classes with young kids, kindergartens, 1st graders, and I ask them if they know the word assertive, being assertive. And we do a little role playing, we show what passive is, and we show what aggressive is. And then I tell them, so what do you think assertive means? And when you hear it explained out of a kid's mouth, it's pretty cool. Right. And they say, well, it's kind of like standing up for yourself.
Right.
And that's
exactly
what it is.
You and I had talked about this last week, too. There's that fine line of teaching your children to stand up for themselves and teaching them to bully others. Because I was bullied as a teenager, and then I got to the point where I thought, well, I'm going to stand up for myself. Oh, well, look I took care of that, and now I'm not going to let anyone bully me. But then you get to the point where now you're not letting anyone close to you because you're afraid of being bullied, but now you're bullying them.
Yeah. So that's not a good way to either.
Right.
That's why you got to find a comfortable middle. If you're passive, that's not good. If you're being too aggressive about, that's not good. But being assertive and using a stern voice, but not screaming.
Right.
And then, of course, go to help for, if you're younger, go and ask an adult for help, a trusted adult. In high school and middle school, see if you can work it out, and by ignoring certain things. But nowadays, that's even harder to do because of all the social media.
Yes.
And people, you know, Becky, always my coworker, she always puts it in a good perspective. She says, when I was in high school just 10 years ago, she said it was easy. I was going home at 3:30 and that was it. But coming now, you don't ever leave that alone.
Right.
You're never by yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And to that point, I saw something very cool. Bob Lentz, who's a personal friend of mine, he put something, he did a talk in Oshkosh yesterday, and he had 300 students there, and each student there made a pledge to never send a negative text. He made them stand up and individually, 300 kids said, I will never send a negative text.
That's pretty cool.
And kids, you know, with the texting and Twitter and Facebook and everything, you could say something that's in your mind, in your eyes, innocent, or in your eyes, in your mind, funny. But you have to realize that that's written. Like if you ever received a letter, you don't know what tone that person is writing it in.
And not only
it can only be in how you perceive it.
Who they share it with.
Yeah.
Because the person you sent it to can show it to someone else, and it doesn't mean it means the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be so careful. And the other thing that I've never understood too is the people that are the teenagers that are being bullied on Facebook. Parents, make them take their Facebook page down. It stops. I don't get that point. You know, the mom will say, and I can be wrong, but you know, you'll get a parent that'll say, oh, they're bullying my daughter on Facebook. Deactivate her account.
Yes. However, you have to be really careful to not always blame the victim. This is happening to her or him. So we tend to always make it up to the victim to not get bullied.
Right.
Or we make it up to the rape victim not to get raped. We don't hear people saying, why don't we teach our boys or young men, you don't bully and you don't rape. What we're saying is, well, don't wear that skirt.
Right.
Don't do that. Does that
don't
make
wear
sense?
that lipstick. Don't walk that way. If you don't want to be talked about that way, don't walk in this neighborhood. You know,
again, it's always the person that it's directed to.
See, and I've been bullied. It's like, it's my fault.
It's not your fault. You know, you're not asking for that.
Yeah.
It's about power and control. It starts like that. It starts with bullying. It then goes into sexual harassment and could then turn into worse. Just like with rape, it's not really about very little percent. I think 5% of rape is about sexual gratification. The rest is about power over another
control or
being.
something like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
We have a very weird situation going on outside.
I don't know what Nancy's doing.
We have a front desk lady that
she has literally lost her mind.
Can I say she's swinging around a folder, and I think it's because that dog had passed gas earlier. So I think he's.
I'm going to take random things we talk about on the podcast for $1,000, Alex.
Well,
you going to cut that out?
We were.
No, this is all going in.
So the dog was going out, and I was going, oh, I want to go too.
And no editing in this podcast.
Everything we say here is clean.
Just remember, what's said on the podcast stays on the podcast.
Sure.
So.
I feel safe now.
What would you suggest to maybe a student or a woman or someone who isn't sure how they approach somebody for help? I had received an email, and I said, actually, I'm going to be talking to Andrew. It was a mother whose daughter has a restraining order, and that was being violated. Where does somebody go for that? Who do they talk to?
Well, if the restraining order is violated,
they called the police. They had done nothing. And this isn't local. This was out of our area.
Yeah. So, well, then they could take it further. They could, you know, keep going higher up. It's really no different. Like when I talk to kids, I said, who could you tell? Well, I could tell my mom. I could tell my teacher, for example. So what if they don't hear you? What if they don't believe you? I don't know. I said, you're going to tell until somebody believes you and hears you. And it's the same thing. You go and tell until somebody does something.
It's like the old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You know,
Yeah,
the
well,
more.
that's a good thing about being squeaky.
Oh, absolutely. But the more persistent you are with telling somebody, sooner or later you're going to find somebody that cares enough to say, you know what,
Right.
let's
And
look into this.
It's not that they don't care, because you'll be surprised the way the laws are written. Their hands might be tied. But when I don't understand something, and a person comes to me and says, I don't understand why this isn't ahead, I'll help them. We'll contact that police chief, or we'll contact the district attorney, and they have always taken time to sit down and explain why they couldn't arrest. And there's always a non-arrest report if there's no arrest. Somewhere there's going to be explained why this happened. This could be about the law too.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But, you know, and just kind of
to Price County.
Yeah,
Right.
To backtrack just a little bit, but like the bullying in the schools, or, you know, especially, I mean, I have daughters that are 9 years old, and you can see it starting there, obviously. And what normally would have been innocent to us when we were younger isn't innocent anymore. The picking on the kids for certain things, you know, the color of their hair, like you said, or something like that. But that needs to stop at the source.
Right.
And, you know, our daughters come home and they tell us, and what we do is we always ask them, well, did you talk to that person face to face? And, you know, we've run into a situation where our daughter has told us, no, I'm afraid to.
Right.
Which is perfectly fine. You know, she's 9. We don't expect her to have that. So what we do is we go to the school, or we contact the parents. We say, hey, you know, our daughter came home. This is what she said happened, and she said that your child did it to her. You know, would you mind talking to your child and see what happened?
And you'll have mixed responses.
Exactly, you'll have mixed responses. And
you have parents that say, no, that's not happening.
But then, you know, like I said, it falls back. If you could stop it at the source, stop it at the first opportunity, then the better your children are going to be becoming teenagers, becoming adults.
And being assertive.
Yes.
About what they, you know, stop.
Yeah.
I don't like what you're doing. And because that's, you know, it's just a different level. And it's the same for you then. You don't stop just because one person didn't hear you. So if that other parent's not willing to acknowledge that, was like, well, oh, well, she said this to him, and she said, well, you know.
Well, we get that too.
Let's talk about it.
You know, obviously, we tried to talk to the parents, and for the most part, they're very amicable. They will sit down and talk to you, but you will run into those parents that, you know, absolutely refuse.
Yeah.
And they'll say, you know, my kid is an angel. They've never done that. We've even had instances where somebody literally told me, tell your kid to stop being a wuss.
I've heard that before.
And, you know, back in our day, it was completely different, because when I had an argument or got bullied, or from my standpoint was bullying somebody, little boys handle things differently when I was younger. We, you know, we scuffled in the playground. It was over and done with. You can't do that anymore.
My son stopped telling me things. He'd say, I don't want you to come to the school. Please don't do it for me.
But it's, you know, and then when it comes to middle and high school, now we're looking at, you're going to be the snitch if you tell.
Yeah.
But
we also see what happens when it's left unchecked.
Right.
Because we had an incident here, 3 years ago, in Park Falls. And honestly, the young girl's mom is a personal friend of mine. Her stepdad is a personal friend of mine. It scared the crap out of me. Not only what happened, but the events leading up to it that should never have happened.
What can parents do to prevent raising and allowing their children to become bullies?
I really truly believe that most parents don't know.
I think it's because of lack of active participation in their child's life.
Yes and no. But as a parent, we're all parents here. The last thing you ever want to acknowledge about your child is that they're doing something bad. Whether that's at the age of 5 or that's at the age of 20. You don't want to say, you know, well, in your mind, your kid would not do that. And sometimes, you know, we just don't see it. Whether, you know, nowadays parents sometimes have 2 or 3 jobs. They don't have time necessarily. But I've seen bullies come from 2-parent homes with mom, a stay-at-home mom.
And you would think that they'd be getting enough attention or having enough affection in their life that they wouldn't need that.
Well, think about it. When you think about somebody that bullies, what is it that they're doing? They're manipulating. Just we're all manipulating, but they're manipulating in not such a good way.
Is it control issues for
It's
the bully?
control issues, but so it could very well be that they go home and control that just as well, but just in a different way. They're just not going to show that side.
Yeah.
It's no different than with abusers. Are we sometimes surprised?
Oh, absolutely.
Who abuses?
Yeah.
Wow, he's such a nice person. Never knew.
The wonderful and worst thing about, you know, the news networks now or social media is that as soon as something happens, you know.
Yeah.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
You know, so if something comes out on, you know, CNN or something like that, and, you know, Billy Bob was accused of beating the crap out of his wife, even though he's a 6-time senator and humanitarian of the year.
And people go, oh, how can that possibly be?
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's no different. So to manipulate, it's a manipulation process. Whether you're 5 years old, you might not realize what you're doing, but like you said, it starts there.
Yeah.
Where we as parents and as teachers and uncles and aunts and, you know, I was always happy my kids growing up here in Park Falls when I was always welcome when somebody called me and said, hey, you know, I saw your kid.
Yep.
Didn't happen often.
Looking at you, Kevin.
Parenting plan. We'll share that at another date.
But you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. It's. But sometimes people feel just so offended, and you'll know when that happens, and you're gonna back off.
Yeah.
You're gonna take a different avenue. So it starts at home to help your teachers, help be part of that, to say, no, you're not gonna do that. Whether that's showing your child, okay, you ask for that nicely, and you don't just take it. You know, those are just little things that we might see when they're little that
you can stop.
That you can stop.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean if your kid ever takes something from another
He's
kid
gonna grow up to be an
in
abuser.
daycare, doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
But and not every bully is an abuser. A lot of people
Right.
realize, you know, but like you said, it can very well happen where the tables are turned.
Do they have rehabilitation programs for people who are bullies and ever look to change? I mean, does that happen? I know several bullies, and I can't even imagine in my mind's eye. I met one girl, and she said, oh, I just really long to be a better person, and you don't know if that's, you know, somebody being kind of pregnant, or they really are a bully. You know, you can't be kind of pregnant. You are, or you're not. But, you know, do they ever seek help?
Well, I think I'm not familiar with anything in the school level age. You know, but if we really want to say bullying to the harasser, to then maybe later to the abuser, there could be help out there later. But it's,
I don't think this is just personal experience. I've never seen a bully who everybody else knows is a bully, and you can tell them to their face you were a bully. Stop and say, you know what, I am a bully.
I think I need help. Right.
I've never seen that, and that's just at the bullying level. Obviously, if it turns into an abusive situation where they turn into an abuser, you know, you could show them, hey, you kicked the crap out of this guy for no reason, or you kicked the crap out of your wife.
Still don't get. I'm gonna change
you know, the light bulb doesn't just click on.
Or somehow they feel justified.
Yeah.
Well, and now compare the two. It's the same thing. Somehow the person that's doing the bullying is feeling justified that they can do that.
Well, obviously there's a reason they're doing it, right? The kid deserves it for something.
That's what they're saying. Being sarcastic.
Exactly.
Being
I'm sorry, I was being sarcastic.
Not everybody
I know I can be very convincing with my sarcasm, but I was being sarcastic. Yes, they will say, you know what, that kid deserved it. That little girl deserved to get picked on. But they don't. Nobody deserves to get picked on, you know. So
now the child bully, that's also a cry for help. Usually they're really weak people, you know, weak as far as they're scared to ask for help. So they're just going to, before anybody hurts me, I'm going to just hurt them.
Yeah. And then it becomes a habit and a way of life, and it just carries on.
Right. So.
Well, unfortunately, it's a self-confidence builder in the completely wrong way. You know, because like you said, you start out young, and maybe it is just taking a toy from a kid, but you got away with it, and you got the toy.
Yeah.
And the next time you take it, and you get away with it again. Well, you take it, and the kid stands up for himself, and, you know,
but
it just
accelerates. Take that, and add, I can hide behind the screen and write whatever I want. I can tweet whatever I want. Very dangerous, because you don't know. You just don't know, and it really can escalate. There was a case, and I think in North Carolina, this 12-year-old who killed herself because she was being bullied, and that 14-year-old was arrested.
Oh wow.
So she's probably might be charged with involuntary manslaughter. I don't know.
And that's a big thing too, because we look at bullies and the perception is, it's nobody's fault, but the perception is, the schoolyard bully, the kid, or the boy, I should say. Let's be honest, the boy who comes from a bad home, who bullies the smaller kids because he wants a better life. That's not the case anymore. We're talking about girls bullying girls bullying boys.
Right.
It's the tables have turned completely as to what we perceive bullying as.
And or the kid that comes from the what one would perceive as perfectly balanced home. It's not necessarily a bad home, and does the same thing.
Yeah.
That is even sometimes because society doesn't expect those kids to do that, and that's sometimes worse. But I agree, girls. But I must say, when you look at punishment, when they are caught, the punishment is more severe when it comes to boys than it is to girls. And that's not right.
No,
because
girls should be punished more.
Being sarcastic again.
I really got to stop that.
Yes, you're gonna get in trouble. But what
This
I'm
is a
saying
great
is,
anti-bullying campaign.
if a girl hits a boy in the face, I think she should have the same consequences as if a boy would do that to her.
That's one thing that's
Or to
always
her.
drove me crazy, even when my son was younger. They say, well, don't hit a girl. Obviously, don't hit a girl.
Don't hit anybody.
But don't hit anybody.
Right.
Don't hit anybody. Girls don't hit boys just
Right.
because you can, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I was always raised never lay a finger on a woman.
Or anybody.
So
No, I wasn't taught
down
that.
to work.
Oh.
But then again,
you don't resolve conflict with violence.
Exactly.
You don't.
It gets you nowhere.
You don't. I never hit my kids.
No,
Ever.
and that's the other thing, and hopefully in another day we'll cover too, is if you were raised with violence, getting past those issues as you get older, because I became a very violent adult, and it took a lot.
I kept in check now.
Yeah.
Well, you can make a joke. I was going to make a joke there, but no, Andrea gets
But
to
you
make
I'm rehabilitating.
Step by step.
But you do.
Remember, 3, 2, 1.
But you do. You have to take into account that if you were abused or if you grew up in a violent situation, don't take that into your adult life. Don't beat your kids. Change it. Call her. Discuss it. Read the books. What is the phone number there at the show?
339. Well, our number here locally is 339-4521. And then there's 1-800-924-0556.
And we'll post that on our Facebook page
Yes.
too, with a follow-up and probably a link on the YouTube site as well.
And questions.
Right here. Yes.
We have the Ask Wendy column. It's askwendy
Is Wendy a
at
fictitious person?
gmail.com. Wendy was a dear co-worker of ours who had passed away last year in December. And it was funny because we were sitting there. I was at the shelter, was trying to have a conversation with her, and there's tons of people coming in, other coworkers asking questions, and I said, "Well, is it Ask Wendy Day?" And
And it just kind of
the light bulb came up. I said, "Wouldn't it be cool if we had a column where people can ask questions?" And we've had, I think, like 5 of them or 6 of them in the paper already.
Oh, wow.
And and we've done this, and the paper is generous enough to
print them,
to print them for us for free, so that's really nice. And they're really general questions. If you want to just if you have a question that you want addressed, then we take the most asked questions and we kind of write the column about it.
So please do that. Please contact them if you have a question. If you have a question about anything regarding bullying, violence, anger, Paul.
And
don't ask questions about me. It gets scary.
It does.
Well, Andrea, I want to thank you very much for your
so
time.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
We really, really appreciate it. Like we said, October is Anti-Bullying Month. Tammy and I are big proponents of anti-bullying.
Do you want to others?
Yes, the golden rule.
And I have some information here. I can leave this here. You can make copies for people if they want to pick some information up about bullying and sexual harassment and harassment. And
yeah, so if, like Andrew said, if you have any questions, askwendy@gmail.com.
Yep.
For that, the local numbers we will have posted right here, and also on our Facebook site. So if you have any questions for them, you can call them. Andrea, once again, thank you very much from the Time Out Family Abuse Shelter. We want to thank our sponsors.
Studio One Salon and Day Spa, 715-339-2577.
And Napa of, oh, my head fell down. Napa of Park Falls and Mercer, 715-762-3717. Once again, thank you to Laura from Catkins for the Catkins Animal Rescue of the Week. And thank you for our sponsor for that, Phillips Veterinary Clinic. Take all your pets there for all of your veterinary needs.
Happy weekend.
Have a great one.
Goodbye.